Each year the great pumpkin rises out of the pumpkin patch that he thinks is the most sincere. He's got to pick this one. He's got to. I don't see how a pumpkin patch could be more sincere than this one. You can look all around and there's not a sign of hypocrisy. Nothing but sincerity as far as the eye can see.
Ooh. Welcome to Metaphysical Ghost Speak, the podcast. I'm your host, Elena Vox Starks. Well, I hope that whenever and wherever in the world you happen to be in this very moment when you hear this episode, that you are sitting upon the most sincere pumpkin patch in all the world, and thereby will attract the great pumpkin to come by and bring you gifts and toys and candy. That clip is taken from It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown by Charles Schulz, God rest his soul. I want you guys to beware over tonight, tomorrow, and the next day as the veil is thinner between the worlds, and because of that, you might be haunted. You might have spooky times. I know that I have been haunted all night. I think it's the Duende. So here's some more information taken from my life today. I had my house keys and $7 that I had to pay the taxi missing from my purse. Some of my change was not in the change pocket. It was in a different pocket and had fallen into the bottom of my purse through the liner. I know I didn't put money in there because I know about the hole in the liner. And so I started to panic. I'm like, where are my keys? Where are my keys? I went out with my son, and when we came back, he had the grocery bags, and I said, don't worry, I'll get my keys. You don't need to get yours. And my keys were missing. Oh my gosh. So he got his keys. We came in the house, and I'm like, I'm going through my purse right now. Dumped out my purse and found my keys in a different place than they should be. And only one of my chopsticks. Why do I have chopsticks in my purse, you ask? Well, that's a good question. I learned how to wear chopsticks in my hair a long time ago, and my hair is very long. It goes down to my boo patootie, and I bought these chopsticks. They're fancy. They were $5 for these. They're plastic. They're black and pale green, kind of like a pale moss jade green. And they have a beautiful woman on there serving. It's got a picture. It's like a Japanese picture of a woman serving soup, and one of her boobs is out. Which I didn't even notice until, like, I don't know, 6 years after I bought them. I was showing them to someone. I'm like, yeah, it's a picture of a, oh my God. Oh, well, not many people have noticed over the years, but I tend to wear these in my hair almost every day. since I would have to say about 2011, actually, since the parade in Chinatown for the new year, 2011, that was when I bought these. The day after that, the first day of the Chinese New Year. So, my gosh, that's been 8 whole years. I've been wearing these in my hair. So why was there only one in my purse? I looked and I was like, that's just really weird. Then I got up and I went in the room and I said, hey, Duende, I want my chopstick back, please. I'm going to put my hair up later and I want to put it up with my chopsticks. Came back in my room and here it is on the bed where I had been sitting, which makes absolutely no sense. I was sitting here, dumped my purse out to the side. Why would it be underneath where I was sitting? So I know there's a little duende. He's out and about, as they would say in Minnesota. Out and about, as they would say in the rest of the United States. It's like, what? So the $7, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe that was the money that I spent to go see my friend the other day, but I still had $1.50 to go to the store and $1.50 to come back. And when I was on the way to the store, I couldn't even find 50 cents. I had like a 50-cent piece and a metal dollar for each direction. And then I got there and I was like, oh man, the sun's already gone down, so it's $1.75. Completely ridiculous. I'm not going to sweat over the money, but it's like, what happened to the money? I came home, I'm looking all around, I'm like, I honestly and sincerely can't find it anywhere. So now I'm thinking that Mr. Duende, I don't know his name, but he is a duende, which means fairy in Spanish, and I think he took my money. He hasn't touched my necklace since I took it back from where he had put it. I think his little secret was that when I left, he was going to take it off the drawer and take it somewhere else so that I wouldn't maybe notice. I got my eyes on you, Duende. He's so adorable. We spent time with the Duende today in the house and felt him. Oh, and I'm sure that he was the one responsible for when I tried to shut my window today and the handle broke clean off. It was slightly loose, but I mean, off. Just broke. I think there's a way to screw it back in, but it looks like the screws had been kind of jimmied open a little bit, which is really strange. And here we are on Halloween, and you guys know, I mentioned it a few times, that I get a little scared of the vampire bat situation. Oh yes, not only are they real, they're enormous, and they're silent, and they can lick your ankle and suck your blood, and you will never know. Because they've got an anesthesia in their tongue. They just, and they don't make a sound. They lick you. Oh, my son came home with a V-shaped mark on his ankle. And he's like, what's this? And I saw it and went, oh my God, you were bit by a vampire bat. They make a V-shaped mark. And he's like, but I'm bleeding. And why am I bleeding? I didn't even hurt myself. I'm like, oh, it's because a vampire bit you. A week later, he was bit by another bat. But this time it was 2 teeth marks, 2 fangs, not a V shape. That was very suspicious. I told him he better be careful if he goes out tonight, especially on Halloween night, a 3rd bite from a bat. It could end up that he becomes a vampire. It's so scary. So scary. But our friends we had plans with didn't bother to write us, and we figured they probably came up with something else to do on Halloween. We had plans this week, and we all assumed Halloween, or at least my son and I did. And we had plans, and I didn't really have the money to go up there is $6 each way. I only had $20 in my purse and still needed to buy dinner. So I was just like, I don't know. And well, everything worked out. We did not go up there. We ended up we went to the store, bought some candy for Halloween. People do not trick or treat in South America, but a lot of kids wanted to dress up like scary things. And so it was wonderful to see some ghouls and goblins and witches and vampires out at the store, at least. So I guess they wore their costumes all day long, which is so adorable. The big Day of the Dead celebration starts this Saturday downtown. And the last time I went, I had no idea it was going to happen. I forgot what day it was completely. I had gotten really high at home, and then my friend stopped by and said, let's go out. We went out and got drunk together. So I was high and drunk, and then we started walking downtown, and all of a sudden it got really spooky, stormy, dark storm clouds overhead. Started pouring rain, and we went to the town center right in the Central Park there, called the Parque Calderon, Park Cauldron, and all of a sudden we were surrounded by these people in black and orange and purple costumes, and on their head was ginormous heads that were like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet tall and 3 feet to 4 feet across wide, and they were giant skulls like the fancy Day of the Dead skulls in Mexico with the flowers on them. And I was like, whoa, I was high and drunk, not expecting that. Whoa, it scared the crap out of me. And then I started to kind of duck away from these massive heads, and they looked like they were floating because of what people were wearing. And it was one after another. It was like a dozen of them. And then I tried to go hide in the shadows just to let them pass. And then there was people dressed with full body suits, black with skeleton bones that glow in the dark. And oh my God, what a night that was. That was last year, actually. It was pretty crazy. I was like, whoa, just whoa. But my son and I had a pretty good day. I woke up in the morning. My son was still laying in bed. I don't think he was totally asleep. Wasn't totally awake. He was in that middle time, and I put on some Halloween music. So we heard Thriller and Ghostbusters and Monster Mash. And then when we had our coffee, we watched Mad Monster Party by Rankin and Bass from the 60s or 70s. Maybe I think it might have been the 60s, actually. Very old claymation, and if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. And then we went out shopping, and we came back with our stuff. And for a while, though, we watched something that was very scary, Missing 411, David Paulides. If you have any interested at all in knowing how 650,000 people went missing in 1 year, mostly from public parks, national parks in the United States, pretty creepy stuff. Don't ever go alone to any national land. In fact, I'd say just don't even go at all anymore, because, oh my God, it's so scary. And speaking of something that's very, very scary as far as my country goes and the nation goes, they did it. They voted to impeach. At least they voted to start the investigation. The impeachment inquiry will go forward. And, well, Trumpster might not be, well, he's headed for the dumpster. Let's just say that. Trumpster's headed for the dumpster. That's it. That's it. In about 12 days, they're going to start having the hearings. Today, they had the 16th witness come forward that had information that he is a traitor to democracy, a traitor to the people, a traitor to the Constitution, and he is not fit Mentally, he is incompetent and cannot any longer serve as our president. But the House voted for the impeachment inquiry. The Senate has to vote to impeach, and if all goes well, if all goes well, he'll be Mike Pence sitting on that fence. Ah, damn it. It's like, I don't know. It's not really out of the frying pan into the fire. It's more like out of the fire into the frying pan, though. I don't know. It is what it is, but it's scary either way. And, well, perfect for that to have happened on Halloween. If you're sitting at home and you didn't have anything else to do, I wanted to suggest you might want to go look at people's videos of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, the ride. I have seen them. I have seen many videos of all the rides at Disneyland, and I miss Disneyland so much. Used to take my kids every couple years, and it's nice to see the rides, and it's like you're sitting at home eating popcorn, watching the rides as if you're there, a little bit as if you're there. Never is it the same thing, and I cannot wait to go to Disneyland again. I love Disneyland at Halloween, and I love Disneyland in November when they decorate for Christmas all the way through December and part of January. Some of the best times of my life have been during the holiday season at Disneyland, either one or both of them. Love, love, love Disneyland. Last time I was hopped up on so much guarana. Actually, last time I was there, I went with my Arab friends and my kids, and the Arabs are like, well, we don't want to go on the rides. Those are for kids. And they split up from us. And at the end of the day, we're like, did you like the Haunted Mansion? Did you like the Pirates of the Caribbean? They're like, oh, we don't want to go on any of the rides. And I'm like, what? What? It's like the whole park. It's for all people, kids of all ages. And they were like, oh, and they were they're like, no, but we're not kids. I'm like, no, it's for the little kid inside. Everyone, even if you're 80, man. And they're like, oh, I think they felt a little bit bad. I'm like, we never should have broken like our group up, We should have gone around together. I mean, I told them, I'm going to show you guys where to go. It's like, why would they spend like $120 to get in and not go on one ride? I was really blown away by that. I'm like, no. It's funny, people from other countries don't understand what rides are. And in California, man, there's so many parks like that. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. So, I don't know. I don't know. I might have to do something like that down here. Show people what it's really like. But that's, YouTube's got a lot of stuff. We watched Mystery Science Theater 3000. We watched The Crawling Eye, which is a very Halloween-like, movie from the 50s or 60s. It's a horrible movie. Makes zero sense. At one point, the eyelashes are trying to capture a little girl, and this guy just chop off the eyelashes. Totally ridiculous show. But that's why it's on Mystery Science Theater 3000. And it was an old one. It was with Joel from the very beginning, almost the first season, I think, of the show. But all week, my son and I have been watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. If you've never seen MST3K, oh my gosh, you've been missing out. It's a show that started on public access TV in the middle of the night in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. And it's just a story, the kind of the story or theme of it is a man and his two robots that he built because he was lonely. He was sent off into outer space and forced to watch the cheesiest movies made by man throughout history. And he has to sit there with his robot friends and watch these horrible movies. It's a form of torture because his boss hated him. So if you're not from the U.S., and a lot of you that are listening are not, and you've never heard of this, go to YouTube and just look up Mystery Science Theater or Mystery Science Theater 3000. You could go 3K or 3000, and you're going to find it. And there's like tons of movies. There's one, Night of the Iguana, I think, or Night of the Iguanas. That one's a really good one. But they're all, most of them are really hilarious, and they sit and they make fun of the movie. So it's like if you were sitting with your friends and eating popcorn and you're watching the movie and going, oh, this is cheesy, that would never happen, or you're like heckling the characters, or you're saying funny things, it's really funny. It's really, really funny, and they have like little bits and clips in between, and we watched one yesterday, I Accuse My Parents. The movie itself wasn't funny, but the beginning part was pretty hilarious because it was pointing out a lot of hypocrisy in the government and in the United States back in the 50s and 60s, when everyone thought the way that society was okay, and they keep pointing it out. So it was it was pretty funny. Anyway, I just like how it makes fun of society, makes fun of sexism, it makes fun of a lot of the things that are wrong with society, so they'll say snarky comments, and well, how I like that. So I don't know, that's what we've been doing all week. It's just been kind of a Halloween week around here, and having the candy and mixing up as many pieces and bits of candy as possible, and then smelling it. Oh, it's my favorite thing. And in the United States, there's nothing better than having a bag of like wax lips and pixie sticks and the fun size Snicker bar. Let me tell you something right now. A normal size Snickers bar is a hell of a lot more fun than a fun size. A fun size is a teeny tiny bite size candy bar. Nothing fun about that. Like, if it doesn't put you into diabetic shock, it's not fun. I mean, you know, after Halloween and walking around throughout the whole neighborhood asking for candy and you're exhausted, you want your kids to be in a diabetic coma, at least for, 1 or 2 days, and then you can relax. And while you wake up and you're drinking your coffee and they're still asleep, you can pick through their candy and get the good stuff. That's your reward as a parent. Horrible. I know it's horrible. I mean, I miss sweet tarts. I miss Smarties. The Necco wafers, which they're all different colors and they all taste the same. That same flavor is all pretty damn terrible. It's kind of a slightly anise flavor, which is like black licorice. It's almost like a slap in the face. You're like, boom, you shouldn't have bought this candy. Oh my God. Ha ha. And then the white one just tastes like sugar. It's like no flavor at all. It's like, what is happening right now? But we bought these weird little toffees, and they were really hard for toffees. Like the soft toffees, they're supposed to be soft, but they were kind of hard and really stick to your teeth. I was like, wow, more than the US. But one of them was bright freaking blue. And I'm like, what flavor is this? And my son's like, I don't know. Maybe it's blueberry? I'm like, I don't know. And I smelled it, and it smelled like a Tutti Frutti or a bubble gum. Popped in my mouth. I swear to God, it tastes like a melted bag of Necco wafers. I'm like, oh, that's so perfect, though. It reminds me of Halloween back home. We don't have candy corn here. I didn't see a single pumpkin, although I think they might have a couple pumpkins. Every store might have a few. Usually they're like a decoration because no one knows what to do with them. There's no jack-o'-lanterns here. It's a really, really different holiday. And when we were standing under the checkout counter, there was a sign above my head that was a black witch's hat, the conical hat. And my son says, this isn't fair. That's cultural appropriation from Ireland and Scotland and the Celtic nations. Like, this is like cultural appropriation, almost in a way in which it's being made fun of. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Let the millennials point out all of our flaws. It's been good enough for me for 50 whole years, but I never liked that they're making fun of witches. I mean, the hereditary witchcraft thing, it's just, it is what it is. I'm going to tell you guys about a spell that you can cast tonight. If you are single, and if you do not want to be single, and you want to know who is the right one for me, you want to know who's the right one for you, this is what you do. You can get there's a couple different things you can do. You can cut an apple in half across, not up and down wise, but across, west to east. And you cut an apple so that when you open it up, it looks like a star with all the seeds around. So it's like a star inside a star, or a starburst pattern. You can put the apple, ask Goddess Diana to bless it, put it in a pan of water for 10 minutes, take the apples out of the water and scry for your true love. You can see if the reflection of him or her appears in the water. Make sure that there's no light reflecting on the water. The light has to be behind you. Very dim light. So just like a crystal ball, but do it in a pan of water. If it's a black pan, it's better. That's one way, or a bowl with black inside is best. That's one way. And another way is you cut the apple sideways and you ask Goddess Diana to bless it and bless you. And you ask her to give you a vision or a dream of your one true love. And you take 5 seeds from the apple and you say a prayer over it. Please show me my one true love. Amen. Something like that. Ask Goddess Diana to assist you. Ask God to bless you. Ask God for the vision or dream. And you put the 5 seeds. If you have like a little bag, you could put them in a bag, like a little silk bag or something, underneath your pillow. Or you could put them underneath your bed. And within 7 nights, you should have had a vision or a dream of your one true love. That's something that should be performed on Halloween, but it's okay to do during any of the days of the dead. You can also call upon your ancestors. This is a really good time to call upon your magical ancestors to bring you the vision or the dream as well. So they probably know who you're supposed to be with, because there's no time up there, not like here. We live in linear time. Ooh, speaking of time, when I was trying to get everything ready for yesterday's show, I was in the middle of typing a sentence and all of a sudden I hopped timelines. Some things in my room were changed or different. Things that I had near me were all of a sudden missing. Some things had changed color. It was just so strange. It was like I was sneezing and having a really bad allergy attack, and then I hopped timelines and all of a sudden I was fine. And just that fast. Just that fast. A lot of things, it was just like, woo! And I've hopped timelines a couple times in the past few days. When I was on my date, I hopped timelines. That was so weird. I was aware of it. I moved over to the right about an inch. But I didn't move, you know what I mean? Like, it was like I was feeling like I was being stretched energetically. It was pretty strange. I didn't mention it to him on Monday that happened, but I'm like already weird enough, and he's already weird enough. We're already talking about enough weird things, and I was like, I didn't want to be like, I just topped a timeline, because maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I hope I hopped to a higher, better timeline now. But, well, today has been a day of skulls and misfit headbands and, I don't know, spooky skull rings and death statues. And my death ring I was wearing, my son was wearing his skull ring. All of our jewelry, all the things we have around our house. It looks like Halloween year round here. It's one of our favorite times of year. But we both like to speak with the spirits and have conversation with Goddess Hecate, the goddess of the crossroads. So, I don't know if those are the things that you like too. If you ever go and offer a little bit of herbs, like maybe a little bit of marijuana or a little bit of oregano or basil, and you put that at the crossroad, you ask Goddess Hecate to help you choose wisely if you're at the crossroads of a relationship or a job or a career or moving. She will, and if you ask her for protection, she will send you black dogs as a sign that she's watching you. And tonight, tomorrow night, the next night are 3 good nights to go have a little conversation at a crossroads. Stand in the very center of the street where there's basically streets going northwest, east and south. Well, north and south, east and west. You go stand in the very dead center, and you if you're really bold, you'll draw an image to her with chalk. Or you could just drop a little bit of herb and say a couple of words and then keep walking, and no one's going to notice, really. You could pretend you're tying your shoe and drop it like that, too. But it depends on if you're a witch and if you are in the broom closet or out of the broom closet, as they say. But I don't know. She sends me black dogs every now and again, especially if I ask for protection. And I look outside, there's a black dog. Usually it looks up at me and it's like, thank you. I know. Thank you. I'm having magical protection now. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, we're going to get to Metaphysical Ghost Speak. We're going to talk about our ghost stories. Only Michelle and I are the only ones that have ghost stories. Although Michelle sent me a story that something that happened to her daughter that's really spooky. Really, really crazy spooky. She even sent me pictures of the event, and if I could figure a way to download it and load it on up to Instagram, I'm going to try and do that tonight. I already have one Instagram photo. It is of our death lamp. It is a piece of art that our friend up in Quito created. And it's kind of like a paper mache lamp. It's absolutely spooky and incredible. And it's Santa Muerte, or otherwise known as the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper. He's in his black hoodie, his black hoodie robe, and he's holding the candle, and the candle itself is that orange light, and it's kind of a neat lamp. My son begged me for it. Mom, can we please have this lamp? I want this for my bedroom. It is the coolest lamp ever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. The death cult started by a lady in Mexico. The death cult of Santa Muerte, or Saint Death. He is the person who carries us over to the other side when we've died. And death is oftentimes a relief, especially if you've lived a hard life in Mexico, especially if you were poor, for me, especially if you lived in the desert and sweat all the time. Parts of Mexico are way too hot for me. I love Mexico, but it's a dangerous place, and so there's this lady that wanted people to have a positive view of death, that, it actually is a relief, isn't it? We don't have a body anymore. We feel better. Okay. I mean, obviously don't kill yourself. Don't bring death about sooner. Stop smoking, those kinds of things. But you know what? We do have relief at the end, But, like Ted Turner said, life is like a B movie. You don't want to get up and leave in the middle of it, but you never want to see it again either. All right, disclosurenews.it says, in the morning at the local midnight, in the graph shown in white and corresponding to 17 UTC time, we saw 2 slight variations that reached power 20 hertz, frequency 20, from 19 UTC yesterday. The situation is practically calm, And then in the evening report, they just said calm, just calm. It's funny it's so calm when the magnetic poles are getting weaker and weaker and weaker by the moment. They're no longer protecting us from radiation, at least over South America where I live. I mean, there's hella radiation coming here from the sun. It's getting a little hectic. I mean, the sun is brighter than I've ever seen it in my life. It's pretty crazy stuff. The poles are continuing to move. We are in the middle of a pole shift. It's very interesting stuff, man. All right. You'd think that the Schumann resonance would be really high when you'd think people would notice some of the stuff on an energetic and emotional level, you know? Anyway, California, according to HeartMath Institute, started off at midnight at 20 hertz frequency and went down to 0 by 4 a.m. Another unusual anomaly. Hufuf, Saudi Arabia, started off at 21, but they stayed at 21 completely from midnight until 4 a.m. at least. They stayed at 21 the whole time. Lithuania started off at 138 hertz frequency, and they stayed exactly the same until 4 a.m. Didn't even fluctuate or change, stayed at 138 the whole time. Alberta, Canada started off at 148 hertz frequency at midnight, but went down to 140 by 4 a.m. And Northland, New Zealand started off at 81 hertz frequency and went down to 78 by 4 a.m. And Hofuf, we already said Hofuf. In Hululu, South Africa, they start off at 162 hertz frequency at midnight and went down to 159 by 4 a.m. So it has come down in the recent days, so there you have it. In A Course in Miracles, acim.org, which is the website for the Foundation of Inner Peace. It's where you find the most sincerest pumpkin patch, I suppose. If they have one. They are a really good website if you want to take these lessons and take them from beginning to end instead of a couple bits and pieces as I'm offering you. It's absolutely free. You could also download an app. Today we are on lesson 143, and this is what the basic idea of the day is. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. And from lesson 125, the review is, in quiet, I receive God's word today. In quiet, I receive God's word today. And from lesson 126, the thought is, all that I give is given to myself. All that I give is given to myself. Well, there you have it. That's literally the entire lesson. There's no explanation, just that. That is lesson 143 if you want to review it later. And well, there you have it. And when I come back after these messages, I will be reading to you from one of our listeners' letters to me about the numerous paranormal things that have happened to her over the years. And I will be giving you a couple detailed accounts myself of some ghastly encounters right after these quick messages. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app. right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.
Serpents and spiders, tail of a rat, call in the spirits wherever they're at. Rap on a table. It's time to respond. Send us a message from somewhere beyond. Goblins and ghoulies from last Halloween, awaken the spirits with your tambourine.
The spookiest date I ever had was with a man named Jim. And Jim had been a friend of mine, only a friend, for maybe a year, when we finally decided maybe we'll try to go on a date, see what happens. We suddenly found ourselves attracted to one another. And Jim was an oddball. He was a band. He was in a band, and he was a drummer. So he was a musician. He had been with the band for a long time. Then they moved to the Bay Area and called themselves Oranger. Like the word orange with an R at the end, Oranger. Like my safety shirt is oranger than yours. But we were still in Northridge. We're both going to Cal State Northridge University, CSU Northridge. And it was during October, right before Halloween. And he said, why don't you come over? And he told me what time to be there. And I got there, and all the lights in the house were dark. And where there had been sunflowers growing happily along the path, almost making an archway before, now they were all dug up and hanging upside down like sunflower corpses. There were dead leaves across the walk, and it looked like nobody had lived there in months. And yet I knew that he was there. I knew where he lived. I had been in his house many times. My friend John was his roommate, and I had gone to visit John many times. So this was really weird. And as I approached the doorway and the crickety wooden steps, I tried to peer into the house because the door was slightly ajar. was a little bit open. And the minute my foot stepped onto that creaky, crickety old porch, all of a sudden, the music started. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. Beethoven, I guess. I was like, whoa. That was really creepy. And then the door started to open. It was just a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, right? And here comes Jim, and he opened it, and he stood there looking like a vampire, and he was wearing like all black, and I think he had a cape on. I think he had the vampire, those plastic teeth in. And I was like, whoa. At first I was scared. I stepped back. It gave me a fright. And then he bowed to me and ushered me in with a wave of his hand. And I came in, and he took off the cape, and he took out the teeth, and he had a hat on, like a top hat. Maybe he didn't, but that's how I saw him in that moment. And then he gave me a big hug, and he says, "You ready to go?" And I said, "I'm always ready. Always ready. I got everything that we need right here." And he's like, "Oh, you brought a backpack to our date?" I go, "Well, I have some supplies. You never know what you're going to need when you visit a graveyard." Oh, so yeah, Jim took me to the oldest graveyard in Los Angeles. People had been buried there for over 100 years. Maybe some of them a little longer, from the old Wild West days, before the days of Hollywood even. We wanted to see some ghosts. So he brought a blanket. I brought some water and plastic Solo cups. I think we had some whiskey too. And we just sat. I think he even brought a candle he lit in the wet grass. And we just sat and watched for the ghosties. And every now and again we'd see something out of the corner of our eye. Woo! There we go. Wait, did you see that? Yeah, I think I did. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me. Maybe there really wasn't a ghost, and maybe there wasn't anything, because, we're just suggestible. So we kept thinking. And then we thought we saw a man walking with a top hat, and then he left. All of a sudden he disappeared in a flash. And we sat there for another maybe 20, 30 minutes, didn't see anything. And we were there for a good hour, whatever. We started drinking. We think we had a shot of the whiskey. I think we smoked some weed. And then we had some water. He's like, "Wow, you have water. You're so prepared." I'm like, "Well, I was never a Girl Scout, but I am a Virgo." He was born in October. And for a gift, for his birthday that month, I brought him Tang, but I changed the word to Fang, and I drew fangs on it for Halloween. And I gave him my pet spider, Wednesday Addams, I named her. She was a black widow. And he loved it. He said it was the best gift anyone ever gave him. A pet black widow spider. My God, who would even have that in their house? I'm like, well, apparently I would. I didn't want to kill her, so I had to put her in captivity. It's all I could do to be humane. It was either that or kill her. I didn't want her to come back and bite me. When she saw me, she started to attack me, and I had to do something. So I gave him my pet spider that October. So we're on this date. We're in the cemetery in Los Angeles. And we were just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, I saw her. A little girl from the 1800s. She had curls, long curls in her hair. The corkscrew type curls, and she had ribbons on either side, and she had a long dress that went down to her ankles, and it looked like she had little socks and little Mary Jane shoes. And she had a big smile on her face. She looked so happy. She had a high-waisted, like an empire dress, but it went down to her ankles, and it was roughly around her arms. And she was skipping through the cemetery. Her visage was very pale blue and white, like you would imagine, like Casper the Friendly Ghost. And she ran up to a tree, and she climbed into the tree, and I saw her walk along the tree branch and shimmy down a rope, and that was a swing, and she started swinging back and forth in the tree. And then all of a sudden everything disappeared, just like a wind came up. And I saw that, and I turned and I told Jim about it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the sprinklers went on, and we got soaking wet. We're like, oh my God, grab everything. And we're running, like completely soaked to the bone, wet. And we landed underneath a 200-year-old oak tree. And he pinned me up against a tree. We had our first kiss, and I got so shy. He's like, I've never known you to be shy. I get shy about this, Jim. So he kissed me, and then we saw other ghosts out of the corner of our eyes, and then the sprinklers turned on where we were again. Oh my God, we had to run again, and it was like it was crazy. And then we thought we saw a man, a human, not a ghost, but a man. We're like, oh, we're gonna get in trouble. Oh my God, we gotta get out of here. No one's supposed to be in the cemetery at night. Oh my God. And we ran for the car. And we drove home, and I handed him a towel that was in my bag. And he said, how would you know to have a towel? And I said, well, there's 2 rules to the universe, according to Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Number 1, don't panic. And number 2, always carry a towel. And we use that towel to dry our hair and our faces and our clothes on the way home. That was my spookiest date. And I haven't talked to Jim in years, not since before I married my dearly departed husband. May he rest in peace. And now I'm going to tell you a few things that Michelle, one of my listeners, sent in. She was the only one. Now, I know Cheryl would have sent in plenty, but I thought yesterday's show was pretty good. Not a lot of people listened. But I think if you like ghost stories, that one was chilling from beginning to end. I mean, I hopped timelines in the middle of it. Goblins and hobgoblins were trying to stop us from recording the technology. And today is Mercury retrograde. All kinds of things were happening yesterday. Every time we try to talk, the spirits don't want us to tell, not to spill their secrets. Oh well. We're going to get to it anyway. Michelle says, this is what she writes to me. I have had numerous paranormal things happen over the years. When my kids were little, we moved to an older house, and we had a lamp hanging from the ceiling by a chain. And it started to rattle. It started rattling all by itself one night. That night we went to bed, and I heard pots and pans being rattled downstairs. I thought the house was being robbed. Finally, I had to call the police. They checked it out, and they found no sign of a break-in. She says, we moved out right after that. Pretty crazy. Now, this next story is also from Michelle. This one's really crazy. So she said, later we moved to another house, and my daughter kept a journal. One day she came home and found red, wet, alien-looking writing in her journal. Ooh, it's so crazy. She brought it to me and asked, "What is it?" I was in shock. That's what Michelle said. This kept happening while we lived there. She would go to school and a blank page would be open, and when she came home, we'd immediately go look, and sure enough, it was again the weird red writing. My younger daughter said that she was walking in that same neighborhood one day. She's walking around and saw suddenly everything changed, and it turned into what looked like the old Wild West, the old Western days. She said everything was like what you would see in an old Western movie, like she had been taken back in time. She saw a hotel and a saloon and everything that will be in the old Wild West. Now this story, she says, this happened to them when they lived in Orange Park, Florida, right down the street from where Ronnie Van Zant was buried, from the band Lynyrd Skynyrd. He died in 1977. Very, very crazy. They had other paranormal things, not always ghosts. She says, my younger daughter also swears that she was abducted there and remembers a bunch of bloody cows being up there with her, I'm supposing in the spaceship. That's really creepy. Also, she said that at a previous house that they lived in, a bunch of Native Americans, in fact, a whole family, was living in her room. Michelle and I have a lot in common because my oldest daughter, back when he was a she refused to sleep in her room when we lived in an apartment building in Chico. She said she didn't want to disturb the little girl who wanted to live in her room with her and play with her dolls. My oldest never played with dolls, but she had some stuffed animals, and this little girl would sit on the end of her bed and play with her stuffed animals. And sometimes my kid would come home and say, hey, my stuffed animals were moved. She moved some of the things in my room while she was playing today. And back in that apartment, we were afraid to walk down the hallway at night because it was so crowded. We had to push our way through hundreds of Native Americans that had all been slaughtered in a war there. And it was really creepy. I did actually manage to help them all go to the light. And if you want to hear that, there is, I think you have to look up Native American, how to help Native Americans cross through the light, Native American rituals, something like that. I can't remember. I mean, it's not for you to do with Native Americans. Currently, this is a very specific tribe, and the person who knew the chant and how to get them back home was killed with them, so they had no way to go. And I had to ask other tribal people from other tribes in the area, and they told me what I needed to do. And it took me a while to get all the stuff, to gather it, but I had to say the correct words, burn the correct herbs, do it in the correct way to get them all back to their home. Michelle says also at that house where they had a Native American family living in her daughter's room, at that house, she said, we saw a lot of weird things happen, and sometimes objects would just fly across the room. Yep. Okay, another story that Michelle wrote. Her life is very, very, very much like mine. She says, I worked at a nursing home where people died at least once a week. And we worked on the night shift, commonly known as the graveyard shift, as they call it, she says. Anyway, they locked the doors at night, and me and my coworker, we watched a locked door fly open and shut several times. And also the elevator would just start opening and shutting itself with nobody on it. Very, very, very crazy, right? I believe it, though. I mean, institutions. You heard the story last night with Cheryl when she talked about the insane asylum. Ooh, that was a creepy story. Lots of creepiness around that one. The insane asylum, or the crazy hospital. So, and now Michelle's saying nursing home, and now I'm going to tell you something about Tehachapi. Tehachapi Prison, just north of Los Angeles. I believe it's in Lancaster area, or it's a city called Tehachapi, and it's between LA and Lancaster. And I think it's still in LA County, or the county just north of there. But Tehachapi is a very haunted prison. It is a California state facility, and either it was built on Indian burial ground or Native American burial grounds, to be politically correct. It was either built there or right next to there. And sometimes my ex-husband, Terrell, would work the graveyard shift. And one time he heard a very loud slap, and he heard one of the prisoners scream out, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he started screaming because no one was in the room. He was like, help me, help me, help me. Oh, God, help me. Oh, my God. He's freaking out. So, of course, Tara went running. And he saw this prisoner freaking out, pacing back and forth in his cell, just freaking out. Not in his shell, his cell. Freaking out. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Freaking out completely. In a state. Charles like, what's wrong, inmate? What's going on? And he says, okay, so I was asleep, right? I was asleep, and this big hand came and slapped me awake. And he had a mark. Charles said he had a mark on his face, like someone slapped him. But he didn't have a cellmate, or cellie, as it's called. He didn't have anyone with him. He was all by himself. And then another night, same thing. Slap. And Tara went running. He heard the guy screaming again. And he said, what happened this time? He says, I got slapped the minute I tried to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden I saw a Native American man, a ghost, sitting in my cell, saying that I'm a very bad man and I don't deserve to sleep. Not with what I've done. He's like, get me out of this cell, get me out of this prison. He's like crying. And my husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, but Terrell looked at me and said, well, maybe he's right. Maybe you did deserve that. My husband lived with, not lived with, but he worked with, and he stayed overnight, many, many nights in Tehachapi prison with the inmates. They were level 4, the worst of the worst. The serial pedophiles, the serial killers, the murderers, the big time, like, drug dealers, like the ones who were, dealing with cocaine and heroin, but the people that they had been murderers. So, in his opinion, he's like, maybe that Native American spirit is right. And so this guy, every night for about a week, was tortured, slapped awake by the Native American spirit. And then after that, I don't think it happened. It's like maybe 10 days to 14 days was every night at the same time he got slapped. So there was that. I mean, think twice before you do anything in that area, because if you go to Tehachapi prison, you're not going to get a good night's sleep because they know what you did. They could see it in your aura, these Native American spirits. Another night at Tehachapi prison, Terrell said that it was in the logbook when he had come in from the night before. He was his night off, and he had to interview the guard about what happened. He couldn't believe it. It was really alarming. This is an all-men's prison in the middle of nowhere. I think just north of the Sepulveda Pass, which is one of the only areas in Southern California that ever gets ice-cold temperatures and snow in the winter sometimes, up to an inch. Maybe, I think 2 or 3 inches was the most I've ever, in my lifetime, it's ever gotten. But it's creepy. It's a creepy place because nowhere else in Southern California gets snow, not like that. Not like that. And in the summer, it gets so hot that the cars stall in the road. And people get overheated and their cars get overheated. Brand new cars that have plenty of radiator fluid, or older cars that have water in them if they're water cooled, it's just such a hard place to drive over, the Sepulveda Pass. I know that I flew over there over the Sepulveda Pass in a 2-person airplane once, little 172. My friend Gio told me I could take over, and I flew home, even though I had no training. But I'd had under the table training, is that what they call it, when you didn't pay for lessons, but you were taught by people with piloted, they were piloted people. They had their license. So my cousin was a pilot. Gio was a pilot. And I remember right when we hit the Sepulveda Pass, suddenly tons of turbulence. Even in the air above this spooky land, there was turbulence. Perfectly clear blue sky. Clear day. There's no storm, not very much wind, just normal day. Go over that part, tons of turbulence. And I remember getting a little bit of gray clouds out of nowhere. When we come back on the other side of the Sepulveda Pass, everything was fine again. Spooky, spooky place. So Terrell went and he interviewed this person, and this person told him what happened. Terrell's always been kind of an amateur paranormal investigator, ghost hunter. Yeah. He had plenty of experiences like I had. And this is what he told me. His friend was working that night, and there was a door that slammed shut out of nowhere, woke up all the prisoners. And he went down there, thought maybe someone's trying to escape. Oh God, he's all by himself. Oh my God. Runs down there. There's nobody there. Nobody there. Looked up and down the hallway, nobody there. All right. opens the door. There's no windows open, no doors open, no wind, no breeze inside the building. There was no reason for it. Happened a couple times. Then he gets a message from the guard that was up in the guard tower. He said there was an incident outside, just outside the gate, outside the fencing, where the yard is, where the prisoners go out to work out during the day and get a little bit of sunshine. And he called. He's like, I'm calling for backup. He called him. He's like, I need help because I can't leave the guard tower because I got to keep guard from where, that's where the prisoners would escape if they were going to escape at all. So he couldn't leave the guard tower all night long. Oh, and here we go with the electronics, guys. I had a full battery when I started, and here we go. It just said 10% left. It's a very spooky night already. All right, so Terrell's friend had to go investigate, and he said this. From the window, both he and the guard, and they both reported it in the logbook. In order to get a hold of the logbooks, you would see that officers of the law that work for the state of California have written in their books the stories of the Native Americans haunting all the prisoners, the doors slamming, and the following story. The guard saw a woman, Native American woman. She was wrapped in a native blanket, and she was carrying a little bundle that looked like a baby, and she was shaking it to get it to sleep. He heard her singing songs and crying her heart out. He heard her, and he heard the babies crying. And she was walking the full length of the yard just on the outside of the fence, from one end of the yard to the other. Now, this is a very isolated prison. There's no way a woman could get out there. She appeared solid. She was solid. So the guard saw it from the tower, and Terrell's friend saw it, the other prison guard. And he went out. He saw the woman, and she was crying, and she was going back and forth and carrying on. And it was really distressing because now he has to leave the building and leave all the prisoners inside to go check it out. To tell her, hey, ma'am, you're not allowed to be here. This is a California state prison, and it is against the law to trespass on this land. You're going to have to go home. So he went out to tell her, and he was halfway across the length of the yard when she disappeared into thin air. He debated long and hard, but he had to justify leaving his post. It was on camera, after all. So they both had to put that in the report that night. These are very, very reliable witnesses. If you're a paranormal investigator in California, I suggest going and talking to the warden out at Tehachapi Prison, because I just bet, he would probably give the go-ahead to investigate some of these happenings. You could go and speak to some of the prisoners as well. I think it'd make a good book. Pretty spooky stuff. Oh, guys, speaking of spirits that visit you in the night, I was in the middle of recording this. I started off with almost 100%. It was at 93% on my battery, more than enough to finish the show, add the music, publish it, and even advertise it on Facebook. I had plenty of battery. But suddenly at 1:11 a.m. on November 1st, which is 11/1, so we have 1:11, 11/1, my battery suddenly went down to 1%. I was like, oh my God. I had to quickly save that last section, plug it in, and then I realized I was very, very cold because there were 5 spirits standing in my room just now. One was a little girl who I think was killed when she was hit by a car. They weren't even Ecuadorian. They were just spirits that somehow over the ethers, and because the veils are so thin between the worlds at this time, they decided to come on over. They saw my light. My light was on. My light worker light was shining above my head. And they said, please, can you help us get to the other side? And I said, absolutely. There were 4 adults and 1 little girl. She appeared to be about 9 years old, and she was the one that spoke to me. The other ones just very shy, and they just said, can you please help us? I said, absolutely, I will. I said, is there anyone here who thinks they're going to hell? And they all said, no, of course not. I'm like, good for you. You probably aren't anyway, so don't worry about it. Most people do not go to hell. So the little girl said, I was already in heaven once, but I came here to visit my baby brother. And he was just a baby when I died. And I wanted to see him and play with him because he was such a cute little baby. And I forgot the way to get back into heaven. So I need your help. And I said, what do you like about heaven the most? Sweetie, what is the thing you like the most? And she said, God made me a unicorn cake shaped just like a unicorn. She said it was white and purple, mostly white. And it was the best cake she ever had in her whole life. And she wanted to get back to heaven so that she could have more unicorn cake. It was like the most adorable thing. So I put a white round platform and I make that with my mind, and I had the people step into the center of the platform, and I called upon all 4 archangels to come and surround the platform and open up their wings to keep the people inside. And I opened a big light portal above, and I lifted the platform up, and the angels kept people safe and made sure they got to where they were going. And then I closed up the portal. And that's why this was going to be on time, but my phone was down to 1%. Now it's just 41%. I had to wait an hour. I wait an hour, like an hour and 20 minutes just to get this. But I mean, it was a perfect thing to happen on Halloween. Oh God, and today is the Day of the Dead, and tomorrow is the Day of the Dead in some countries. So literally in the next 2 days will be the Day of the Dead celebrations all over the world. But I want to get back to some of these stories from Michelle, because Michelle, like I said, she has a ton of ghost stories. So here we go. So she says, I was a school bus driver and had an empty bus one day. I was crossing a bridge over a railroad track, and I heard a bunch of loud kids. I thought to myself, I thought I had dropped off all the students. So I looked in the mirror and saw a bus full of boys in basketball uniforms. After I crossed over the tracks, they all disappeared. Ooh. She writes, I later found out that back several years ago, the busload of kids going to a basketball game had died on those tracks due to a train hitting the bus. I was on the bridge that was built over the tracks because they had died. And that was in Round Rock, Texas, where they built the bridge called the Rail Bridge that was built to honor Baylor's immortal 10. Oh, that is just creepy. So creepy. So very, very creepy. All right, so she has more. Oh, yes. Michelle has a lot of stories. I love her stories. She says, I now go to a school called Jersey College in Jacksonville, Florida. And apparently, a woman that was the head dean for many years there had died on the front lawn. They named the campus after her, and her picture is plastered all over the building. Well, I keep seeing a woman walking around who looks exactly like her all over the building. Woo! My friend told me that they just witnessed her boyfriend get a scratch on down his skin with nothing or nobody touching him. They couldn't believe it, but a few hours later, it just happened again. That's creepy. That's not even a Michelle story. That's one of her friends. One of her friends is being haunted. Really creepy. Okay, what else does she say here? One time I was living in a bad neighborhood with just me and my kids after our divorce, and the kids' school was across the street. Well, I was at home for lunch, and there was a little child walking around in my house. I thought that one of my kids had come home early, so I called out, but nobody said anything. So I just looked everywhere, and I never found anyone. When the kids came home finally that day, they said, "No, Ma, we've been at school all day." Oh. Oh my goodness. That's pretty creepy. That reminds me of a story that happened to Terrell and I, my husband, that I was married to for 13 years, and he died 9 years ago. We haven't done the honoring of the dead plate. We will be doing that for Day of the Dead, and I'll talk more about that on probably tomorrow, actually. But when we first moved in together, we moved into a pretty old duplex. It was called a duplex, but it was 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like 2 duplexes basically on one lot. It was on, I think we were on Victory Boulevard in the valley, and we were the only odd men out. And what I mean by that is, in the duplex where we lived, there were twins, Bernice and Denise, and Bernice was my neighbor. They were on the other side of our wall. Okay, so it was Bernice and her husband, and then in the other duplex on the same lot was Denise and Terry, and they were married, and then their little sister, which I don't even know why I can't remember her name right now, and she was living there with her boyfriend. And what was hilarious about that was his job. He worked in a dildo factory, and he said, "Let me know if you ever need anything. I will just swipe whatever kind of dildo or sex toy, anything you guys want, I will get it for you." And we were like, "Cool, we'll let you know, buddy." And we just looked at each other and we were like, "No, oh no, how weird." He's like, I'll even bring you lube. One day he brought us lube and condoms. I'm like, oh my God. He worked at one of those, and he brought us a catalog. He's like, yeah, he gave us whatever you want. It was like they made the dildos and they had the catalog with all the stuff in it. I was like, oh my God, LA is full of crazy things you could do for a job. And that was what he did for a living. And Terry was retired. He had been one of the first people to be in the remote viewing program for the Army. He had some tales to tell, and he was a very, very interesting person. But, yeah, someday I might talk about some of the things that happened to us while we lived there. It was pretty crazy. But I think I did tell you guys a story about the black helicopters and having to call the hazmat team, and Strange Universe came out, and that was the last time it was like maybe one show after that, and it was off the air because I think the LAFD got it off the air. It was just, they got canceled like immediately out of nowhere without explanation. And to this day, I'm sorry to Deepak Chopra's son, that was his show. Anyway, yeah, crazy. It might have been our phone call. And there was some absolute military stuff. We got some lab results that were just, there was human DNA in the stuff that came from the black helicopters onto our land, and it was crazy. But that was only one thing that happened. Another one was that there's like in that stuff, it was like this gelatin stuff that was on the ground, and it was tree fungus from Alaska. How the hell was that in this weird gelatin crap that was dumped by a black helicopter all over our house and Terry's house? We don't know which one of us were targeted. If it was my husband and I, the time he was just my fiance, but my fiance and I, or was it Terry? I mean, crazy stuff. But one time he had a tornado in his house that blew up everything, like just papers everywhere, freaked out his fish and his dog. It was really crazy. There was some spirits, or he doesn't even know what, maybe just elementals, nature spirits sent to screw with him. And it was on the anniversary of the day he left the remote viewing place. We thought either the government was messing with him or some of the people he had done the remote viewing with. They had figured out how to use their powers to screw with people, and they sent a tornado to be that day in the center of his living room. So that was another crazy thing. But when I first moved into this place with my fiance, he hadn't even asked me to marry him. Technically, he was just my boyfriend at that time. We moved in together to see if we get along. I think I said the other day that we met in April and got married in August, and boy, was that fast. It was actually a year and a half later, so it wasn't as fast as I was thinking, and I don't know what. I was not very clear thinking last week when I was sick, and I said that. I'm like, what? No, so it was a year and a half we were together. But, anyway, we were living together. We had boxes everywhere. It was like just a nightmare. We had just moved in, and I said, can I make you something to eat? And he said, oh, no, thank you, sweetie. I'm not hungry right now. I said, well, I'm hungry. I'm going to go make myself something. Just let me know if you want something, and I'll make you something if you don't want to make it yourself. It was very hot. It was summertime. We moved in right before 4th of July. Our first holiday together officially as a couple was the Day of Freedom, which was the day my dad and stepmom got married, and they were together like 30 years. So I'm like, yay, that's cool. So anyway, he said, no, thank you. And so I went into the kitchen, and I hear, honey, can you make me a turkey sandwich? I said, what? And some iced tea, please. Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, not a problem. So I made my sandwich, got my iced tea, made his sandwich, got his iced tea, carried these things into the bedroom. And he said, I told you I'm not hungry. Well, what? You screamed at me, honey, can you make me a turkey sandwich and some iced tea, please? And he said, no, I didn't. I'll take that iced tea, though. Thank you. I'm hot. And, I mean, leave the sandwich. Maybe I'll eat it. I'm like, I'll wrap it up if you're not hungry. He's like, no, I really didn't say it. I go, I really heard you. And it was almost our first fight. I'm like, well, whatever. I mean, I can wrap it up. I'll eat it later tomorrow if you want. If you don't want it, it's cool with me either way. I'm not going to sweat this, right? And then he says, all right, cool. All right, no problem. And then later that night, I finished my sandwich in my glass, and I picked up everything, and I was carrying it back into the kitchen. And I hear him walking behind me. I'm like, what are you doing? You said you're going to go to sleep. And I didn't hear anything. And I didn't turn around. I heard him behind me, and we have a wall of boxes, and it was just, I have the stuff in my hand, juggling, and I'm not going to turn around. And I'm like, whatever. And I know he's just messing with me. And I'm like laughing. He's a joker. He's Irish. He's mostly Irish like me. He's a joker. And we're pranking each other. It's like it's okay. So I'm walking again, and here he's walking along the wooden floor. I stop again, and I say, that's not funny. I'm carrying dishes. They can break, Don't try to scare me. And again, nothing. And so I walk a few more steps, and here's the feet on the floor behind me. And I turn really slowly, and nobody's there. The bedroom door's open, and I could see my boyfriend's foot. He's laying on the bed, and I see his foot hanging over the edge of the bed. I'm like, okay, that was weird. This place is haunted. So I brought the stuff into the kitchen, and I cleaned up, did the dishes, whatever, and went back into the bedroom. No more footsteps. Okay, that was weird. And then I went and I laid down, and, everything was fine the rest of the night. A couple days later, I was in my bedroom by myself, and my husband was out. Well, at the time, he wasn't my husband. He was my guy. He was outside, and he was playing with the dogs. We had a little yard. We had my dog, my wolf, and his dog, and so we were, and I had another dog. Actually, the other dog, I think I found a home for, Ginger, so she went. So it was just, we had two dogs. He was out with the dogs. He was kind of wrestling with them and hanging out, playing with them. I'm in the house by myself, like 3 p.m, bright, sunny, hot summer day. And all of a sudden the Frisbee goes flying across the room, hits me in the side of my face. Not very hard. It wasn't a malevolent ghost. He was just being really sweet. And I was all, hey, I know you're here. I don't know you though. If you want to show yourself or let me know, I want to know more about you, right? So nothing happened after that. I'm like, all right. So I think it was maybe a week later or so. And we said, God, it's a hot day. It's so freaking hot. It's August. We opened up the window. We were like, oh my God, it is absolutely freaking hot. So we're going to leave the window open all night. And we were not wearing clothes. We're like, let's shut off all the lights, open all the windows. Hopefully Bernice and Denise and no one will walk by. So we did that. And all of a sudden we hear boom, 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 boom. And we're like, who's out there? And all of a sudden it stops. We're like, what the fuck? What the hell was that? And we're looking outside and we're like, this is LA, right? We probably don't want the window open. It's easy to pop a screen, and if we're asleep, like, oh my God. We run outside and there's nobody there. Look out the windows, no one there. We run outside, we look both ways, we look everywhere. All over the complex, there's nothing there. No one there. What the hell was that sound? We go back inside, lock the door, we check all the windows in the place, checked the back door. The dogs, I think, were sleeping in the kitchen on the cold linoleum floor. We bring them in at night, everything was safe. Everything's locked up. We go back, we check our window, make sure it's secure, at least and it's too hot. We're like, it's too hot. Kept the window open, we laid back down, shut off the lights again. And again, we hear the sound of the rake sweeping right outside our window and hitting the wall. Like someone not paying attention, not being very careful when he's sweeping. Boom, 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 boom. We're like, what? We're just like, oh my God. We ran outside again. No one's there again. What the hell? And all of a sudden I saw it. I'm like, who are you? And I closed my eyes and I saw this teenager, this sweet boy. He was like 16 years old with dark brown hair and a really sweet smile, just a good kid. And I saw that his mom was working and he does the yard work. He takes care of the house while she's at work. And someone came up and shot him in the chest and he died while he was raking the yard, while he was taking care of his mama's rose bushes in front of the duplex. So the next day I went to Terry and I said, this thing's been happening. The sandwich incident, the footsteps incident, the Frisbee incident, and now the raking in the middle of the night. So what's going on? And I think this kid's mom was like a nurse or something, and he goes, oh, we forgot to tell you. Yeah, your place is haunted. There was a kid living there and he was killed. He was shot and killed. And that's Matthew. His name is Matthew. You've got the ghost, Matthew, he's with you. So that's my Matthew story. God bless Matthew. I wish I had known how to put spirits into the light back then, because that sweet little boy, teenage boy, he deserved to be in heaven and not continuously worried about his mom coming home and him having to sweep the yard late at night because he forgot after school. It just breaks my heart, that story, because it seemed to me that he was just a good kid. It's funny, he wanted me to make him a turkey sandwich and he mimicked my husband's voice. It was very strange, very strange. All right, so let's see. I'm going to read another one of Michelle's stories. I tell you, I was so cold when my battery went down to 1% and I had the 5 people in the room. I had to put on a sweater, and now I'm burning up. I'm wearing the same sweater, and I'm like, now that they're gone, my temperature in my room rose considerably. Very strange, right? The other day, my son, when I went out on Monday, I was gone for hours, and he cleaned the whole place. He was so inspired that I was gone, and I was on a date, and I was happy. And he says, I came home and he said, this place, there's been fairies. I've been seeing them fly all around. There's been ghosts in here. There've been spirits. It's like the place has gotten really hot and then really cold and really hot. He says, it's been crazy. A lot of paranormal activity in our apartment. So now I wonder if those five people I just released to heaven today, they might have been hanging out for a few days and I just was so busy in my own mind, not really aware of it. I was very cold for a couple days too at night, so it might have been that, but pretty crazy. Speaking of good boys, good teenage, my son's such a good kid. Both of my kids are good kids. So, all right. This is a really strange thing that Michelle said. She says, there have been lots of times when I felt like someone was kicking me in the back as I drove down the road by myself. I felt beings touch me. I once rolled my vehicle when I was young, and I didn't even have a scratch from it. I felt like angels had intervened. Sometimes I'll open my eyes at night, in the dark of night, and I see all kinds of people or beings in my room. Almost like I'm seeing a parallel universe or something. So I thought that's pretty interesting. And then she says this: my grandma was on hospice, or in hospice, and she said she died one night and she went to heaven. She walked for a time with Jesus and they sent her back. She said a big angel had appeared in her room and told her it wasn't her time just yet. She said heaven was beautiful. She said that she would send me rainbows and cardinals when she died to say hi, which I now see all the time. That's really sweet. So sweet. God bless your grandmother, Michelle. That's so sweet. Here's a fun one. She says, one time me and the kids were in the backyard at night. We were taking pictures, and there were all kinds of orbs in the pictures when we finally looked at them. And the same thing happened at a graveyard there in Austin, Texas. Also, we went to a nearby club that used to be a funeral parlor, and during that time our watches kept changing time, and all of our electronics kept flipping out. This is where we found out later a bunch of Native Americans and pioneers had been slaughtered several years ago. And there's many stories about it, and it happened to be both sides. So it sounded like a war, the Native Americans and the pioneers against each other. And it's, she sent me, I didn't read the article yet, but she sent me this article saying the sinister story behind the popular Austin Greenbelt will give you the chills and make your hair stand on end. Let's see here. So she also goes on to say, this is why we have so much in common. I've been abducted my whole life. And she says, I know for a fact I've been abducted. I come back with scratches all the time. I could always remember bits and pieces of it. But it's not always a bad thing. I always beg to stay. But they keep saying that I'm needed here for something big. That will be happening soon. So I reluctantly keep coming back. They said it's the whole reason that I'm here on Earth right now. I keep telling them I want to go home, and they just keep saying, soon. So she asked me for help. She says, any help with this will be appreciated. Yeah, Michelle, I'm gonna look into that one for you. I remember one time running underneath a UFO at the beach. I was running in the water. I didn't even notice. I was just so like, take me with you, take me home, take me with you. And afterwards, I was really shooken. It shook me. Take me home? What the hell was I saying? Where's home and who were these beings? It wasn't Pleiadians. The ship was triangular shaped, like the one Art Bell and Ramona saw. In fact, what they described was exactly the ship I saw, and it was over the ocean in Santa Barbara, like on the beach. Over the beach. Every day that I went to the beach, I saw it at night. I don't know who these people are, but they might be part of my spiritual family. Let's see. She said one time she was in a graveyard. She heard a bunch of noise coming out of a mausoleum in the middle of the night. She decided it was best to GTFO out of that situation. She thought maybe it was crackheads getting high in the middle of the night in a mausoleum. or something, since it was cold in wintertime. She also said that there's a haunted lighthouse in Jacksonville that she wants to go visit sometime. This is where Ponce de Leon discovered the Fountain of Youth in St. Augustine. It is the oldest city in America. And there's original ghost tours of St. Augustine. So if you guys have any interest at all, anything at all about ghost stories, or want to go see the most haunted, oldest city in America, it might just be St. Augustine, Florida. All right, I had one more story. Let me see if I can remember which one it was now. Oh, yes. Oh, God, this is the best. I saved the best for last, guys. This one is really creepy. Okay, so I think I might have said this one a little bit, bits and pieces of this one before. But I was a gym rat at one point in my life. When I was 19 years old, I was a charter member at Gold's Gym in Santa Barbara. And one of my friends who worked there was Mr. Universe from the year before, okay? So I was training with serious hardcore bodybuilders, and there was a gym down by the beach that I also sometimes trained at. And I met Eddie Cohn over at that one. He was a famous deadlifter, powerlifter, right? So, I mean, I hung out with the serious hardcore dudes, right? And I never looked like that hardcore, but I did my best. I found out later it's because I wasn't doing steroids that, why I didn't make the gains I thought I could. But for being natural, I actually looked pretty good. Never did gain a six-pack. Damn my Irish roots and Irish, German, Scottish roots that have the really thick, the women, we all have really thick skin, not fat, but thick skin on our stomach. So we can never have that, can't rock that sexy six-pack look, that sometimes women can get, but it's our heritage. I found out, like my cousin is oft saying, hey, love me or hate me, but I'm always going to be the green eyes with the thunder thighs. And that's our family. I mean, when it's our family reunion, because you just see a wall of blonde and red hair women with big boobs and a big booty. That's our family. That's like from my mom's side, all the women were all the same. And when I met these people for the first time, because I had been adopted and then I'm going back to my birth family, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. We all kind of look alike and we all have big boobs. And it's like, what? Crazy stuff, right? But anyway, but I digress. So, but I was always trying to lose that extra layer of fat on my stomach. I mean, I would do like, 50 pull-ups and 50 sit-ups and 50 push-ups and 50 pull-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups. And I'd do it till I had like 500 or 600 of these things under my belt, right? Like every flippin' day, every freaking day, 7 days a week. And I rode my bike like 150 to 200 miles a week. And on top of that, I mean, I was working out 4 to 5 hours a day. Completely obsessed with working out. And I was a size 3. I was a model. I actually had some pictures in Los Angeles Style magazine way back in the day. And on some of my websites, you could see my modeling pictures. I think maybe on soulspeakradio.com. So I was gorgeous. I was size 3, but I worked my ass off. And I still had that thick layer of, my skin was still thick on my stomach. It always drove me crazy. And anyway, I was always working out. And when I was done working out, I had 2 options to reward myself with frozen yogurt. At that time, we had TCBY, the country's best yogurt, and Penguins. Okay, so I went back and forth. I went over there, TCBY, and then went to Penguins. Well, Penguins was a little bit. It was closer to my gym and a little bit less expensive, especially for the toppings, I think was a little bit like 50 cents less. So I was really exhausted that day. I had worked out. I think I took an extra aerobics class that day. I lifted weights for 2 hours, and I had hit the Gravitron machine for like 30 minutes. I mean, I had been in the gym like 3 or 4 hours, and I hadn't eaten that day. I was absolutely like shaking and starving right at the end of the workout. I'd also done like the stair step machine for like an hour or 45 minutes, something like that. I was exhausted, and so I was just like, that's it. I got to go work out. I mean, I'm done working out. I got to go before I ride my bike home up the hill, right? I mean, seriously, I was like hardcore in those days. I mean, now I like could barely walk around the block. Of course, I live at 8,400 feet above sea level, so it's super hard to breathe here. But when I do feel good, I'll go walking for 6 hours here, easy. It's easy to do here. Beautiful place to be. I love this UNESCO World Heritage Site I find myself living in. But cobblestone streets, they're so hard on your back, but they're so pretty. But anyway, so it was like, again, like 4 p.m. It wasn't night. It wasn't spooky. It was in the summertime. It was like July or something, July or August. And I was just, I went inside where it was nice and cool. And there was the air conditioner and a fan, thank God, and all the frozen yogurt. I'm like, oh, thank God. I was burning up. I was so hot. And from working out and all that. And so I ordered my yogurt. And I even remember the yogurt was like half strawberry and half vanilla. And then I had like some kind of little bit of chocolate chips, but then like fruit mostly. I tried to get as healthy as possible. But I did reward myself with some chocolate, right? Oreo cookies. I remember it was Oreo cookies. And I was like, yes, this is so good. My boyfriend's not here to talk to me about the Oreo cookies, right? I'm rewarding myself. And yeah, I think I even had gummy bears because I always loved putting little gummy bears. So I'm sitting at a bench just outside the front door. So I'm outside because all of the places inside were taken up by people, and they kept looking in, to see when these people are going to leave, because I want to go back into the air-conditioned room because I am burning up. It's hot. So hot. So I was sitting there, and I had a view looking down State Street, or I guess technically looking up State Street, because behind my back about 2 blocks was the ocean. Like 2 or 3 blocks was the ocean. And so in front of me was going up from the ocean. So that's the direction I was looking. And I was on, if I was west, so if the ocean is west and that's east, the side of the street I would be on the north side of the street. So just to get your bearings and your directions, okay? So I'm on the north side of the street, looking up State Street, if you know Santa Barbara, at the Penguins, frozen yogurt place, which is, black and white. It's really cool. It was like a block from my friend, from this restaurant where my friend Lloyd spelled the 3 L's because he didn't want to be called Yoid by his Spanish friends. He had done caricatures of 360 people, it was like an enormous, these huge walls that were like 30 feet tall in this amazing bar / restaurant place. And then some jerk came along and bought the building and painted the walls, and he tried to save it. And it was just a historical landmark, and the guy didn't give a crap, and he just, he's rich and wanted to paint everything white. Ugh. It just, I hate when people want to destroy art like that. But anyway, so it's about a block from that place. If you know it, and if you live there, you know what I'm talking about. So that was like a really famous bar restaurant too before. I don't even know what it is now. But I was looking up, and there's everybody walking around in flip-flops and bikinis and beach cover-ups over the bikinis because it was right next to the beach. And that was a very common scene in the summertime in Santa Barbara. There were men wearing like cargo shorts, and a lot of men had their button-up shirts that were open, so their bare chest was showing. It was a very hot day, and this establishes the scene, right? Because this is like, it was hard to find anyone wearing jeans or long pants. Everyone's wearing shorts or bathing suits and like a shirt over it. Okay, so that's the general scene. People were wearing floppy hats and sunglasses. Okay, so I'm just noticing this. It's just a typical beach day, beach scene, and I'm all, oh man. I was thinking if I wasn't exhausted, I might have wanted to go down to the beach and hop in the water myself. It was that kind of a day. Hot as hell. My yogurt's melting. I'm trying to eat it really fast, but I also want to savor it. So I was getting really irked, and I kept looking in, and no one's there. And like, no one's moving out of there, and all the seats are taken. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so hot. And my stuff is melting. I want to eat, my yogurt. And all of a sudden, about 2 blocks away, I see this really strange scene. Now, everyone's wearing pale blue, tan, light white, and then the bathing suits were like freaking hot pink, wild colors, but beach wear, light colors. All of a sudden, I see this woman wearing a dress that goes up to her neck and down to her ankles, jet black, and it's black lace dress, and she has black boots with a little bit of a heel, and they're laced up boots. No, I'm sorry, they're not. They're button boots. They had buttons on. She had buttons on her boots, and they were cute, and I love boots, and I was like, oh my God, those boots are adorable. And they were maybe above her ankle, but I couldn't tell because her dress went to her ankle. And she had a little handbag, a little silk handbag with a little button clasp at the top. It looked like it was maybe a beaded handbag, very fancy. It was like lace and beads, but very black on black on black, right? She had long gloves, black gloves on, all the way covering her arms. And I'm like, why is she dressed like that? It's so freaking hot. But get what she had on her head. She had this big, huge hat, almost like a square shape. And over the hat, she had a black lace veil. And it was coming all the way down her back. I could see, even though I only saw her front. And it's coming all the way down in front of her. And it was coming down past her chest area and covering like next to her neck and everything. And her hair was up. She had an updo. And she was very elegant. And she was very, very old. I mean, she looked like 120 if she was a day. So I'm looking at this beach scene with all these sexy, hot, young people, tan, and their little beach bodies, and they're all so sexy with their bikinis and their little sandals. And here's this woman dressed like it's winter time, and she's coming from a funeral in the 1700s from Spain. That's what she looked like. And it was a hot, hot day. I told you my yogurt was melting. I was burning up. I kept looking at myself in the reflection of the window, and my face was absolutely beet red from working out and being out in the heat. I was overheated. And here this woman walks from 2 blocks away straight towards me. Straight frickin' towards me. And she was as solid as you or I. She was coming towards me. And as she approached really close to me, she had like a little bit of a pursed lips, like kind of a little perturbed and a little bit angry type of. And I'm thinking, of course she's angry. Why is she dressed like that? It's so freaking hot. Where'd she get this outfit? I mean, like, she would have had to like steal it from a museum, right? And she's walking towards me. And she gets right in front of me, and all of a sudden I felt it. It felt like a blast from a freezer. I was cold as hell, and I just started to like shake, like shiver, like, and I just felt like her coldness went through me, her cold energy, and penetrated my body, and not in a good way. And I felt like, what the hell hell is that? And I started to shake and I got really fucking scared. Like so scared. 4:00 in the afternoon, all these sexy hot beach people, and then this woman scared the hell out of me. Like, I don't think I could have been more scared if I was midnight Halloween in the scariest, most haunted cemetery on the planet. Would not have scared me as much as this woman. And her face had wrinkles that had wrinkles. She was so old. And her hair and her skin was kind of hanging off of her face a little bit. Not in a grotesque or gory way, but she was just so old. Their faces looked like it had been melting slowly over 50 years, right? And she had a little bit of lipstick on, kind of like a red, like a deep maroon red, and it was a little bit off, wasn't you know how little ladies can't quite see and they put their lipstick on and it smears on one side of her lip, and it was, she was that close to me, guys. And when she didn't see me and she turned, and when she turned, her lace brushed up against my bare legs. It gave me the chills even more. I was like I couldn't breathe all of a sudden. It was like she sucked the air from me. And she turned and she opened the door. And then I got a secondary cold blast that wasn't as cold as she was against my body, the cold blast from the air-conditioned building. And then the door closed behind her, and I saw her lace dress go through the door, and it almost caught. But it was just in time, and she went in to order yogurt. I'm like, who the hell is this woman? And why the hell is she getting yogurt? Why is she not, if she's so hot, why is she wearing that? And this is freaking me out, totally freaking me out. And then she went in to order yogurt, and I was just shaking, and I couldn't even look at her. I was so scared. And then I thought, well, I'm going to look and see if anyone else is getting up, because I want to go in there. I'm hot now. Again, I got hot again, and I was like, dude. And plus now I want to see this woman, and I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? And I looked in there. I looked to the left of the place through the window. No one was there. Wasn't her. There were people there, but she wasn't there. I looked to the right and she wasn't there. I'm like, oh, no, she didn't. She did not disappear. I went in there and no one could come out. There's only one way in and one way out, and that's the door where I was sitting right next to her. I open the door. I walk in with my yogurt and my melting yogurt in my hand, and I look everywhere and she's gone. She's not even in there. And I went to the ladies behind the counter that served the yogurt, and I said, where did she go? I'm sorry, who are you talking about? The old lady, the really, really weird, freaky old lady, the freaky one, the one with, she's wearing an all-black dress and a huge thing over her head with black lace and the gloves and the purse. And she's like, what are you talking about? And the other girl's like, we don't know what you mean. There's no one been in here. In fact, you were the last person that bought yogurt. Well, no. She just walked in here. Maybe she went in the back. They're like, ma'am, no one's been, or they didn't say ma'am to me. Then they said, look, lady, no one's been in here. No one's been in here like that, being that description. Trust us, we would notice something that freaky and that weird. I'm like, she just went on the other side of this door. She was just here a second ago. I'm looking everywhere, and I'm like, now I'm shaking. Absolutely, freaked out, terrified. I go, you guys, I just frickin' saw a ghost. In the middle of the day. Solid as you or I, and then she disappeared. What the hell happened? So I was freaked out, and about a week or two later, I went to my friend who worked in the bank. He had grown up in Santa Barbara his whole life, and he was one of my best friends, and he was one of the bank account managers. The account manager, one of them. He was in charge of all the other account managers. So I went in there and I sat down. I'm like, you got to tell me something. Have you ever seen a ghost on State Street? And I told him where I was with this thing, and I described her. And he went, oh, you saw La Señora. And I'm like, excuse me? Yeah, she's the widow of State Street. When her husband died, that was the outfit she wore every day for years until her death. She never spoke to anybody. and she walked around very bitter, angry that he had died. Very sad, very depressed, and angry, bitter. And every now and again, someone gets to see her walking around State Street. Just like that, back in the old Spanish colonial days, back when the mission was, when like all the houses and the casas and the missions, were the old Spanish colonial style. And she was one of the wealthiest women in town. She had one of those houses, and he told me where she had lived, and it was one of the houses that's now a bar restaurant. When I was a security guard at that time, I was working in her house. I was a bouncer during the fiesta days in August. So I don't know if she haunted me specifically because I had been in her house. And that was the time that was a year, I think, that I threw the man across the room because he was very drunk and he tried to kiss me, and I pushed him, and I used he was very fat, very, very fat, very tall. I used his weight against him. I didn't mean to. I didn't know my own strength. I just threw him across the room, and he tripped over a lot of furniture, and that gave me a reputation for being a bully or a badass around Santa Barbara, and the men were all afraid of me for a while. It was like totally a misfortunate accident. I didn't get in trouble or anything. They were just like, oh no. And I had 3 guards that watched me do that. And they're like, no, A, we're not going to F with you. And B, we saw him try to grab you inappropriately. He tried to grab my boob and my ass, and he tried to kiss me. And he tried to bend me over backwards to kiss me. And it was like, it happened so fast that I just reacted. I'd taken so many classes in self-defense, and I was just like, threw him across the room. And it took like 2 seconds, and I felt really bad. I was like, I'm sorry, but hashtag sorry, not sorry kind of situation. But the widow of State Street, and I saw her, and she's a famous ghost in Santa Barbara, but hardly anyone ever gets to see her. But when you see her, you see her. She's not a white outline. She's not ephemeral. She's not see-through. She doesn't interact, but she's solid like you or I, and you feel her inner chill. I thought that was a perfect story to end this Metaphysical Ghost Speak episode with. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. It's a little bit long and a little bit late, but better late than never. It's better that you're late. So, yeah, that's it. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you, and a special thank you. I'll tell you a little bit more about her tomorrow. Jenner Deal. Thank you for adding me. Thank you for listening to the show. I think she's going to be my new marketer. She is an absolutely brilliant person. I'm going to tell you a lot more about her tomorrow. And she has offered to be my publicist, I guess, marketer, I guess. She's going to help me promote the show. So I want to thank you guys for promoting the show and sending me to your Facebook groups and your Twitter accounts and yada, yada, yada. Thank you for all of that. But Jenner Deal, she sent me a video of her singing Aquarius. She's so gorgeous too. Oh my God. Beautiful dress, by the way. She had this gorgeous thing. So if you want to add her on Twitter, she's awesome. All right, there's that. So shout out to Jenner Deal. And a couple people have, I think Adam has added me on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing to me on YouTube. I do have the Metaphysical Soul Speak over there is my channel. So thank you, Adam, for that. I know I'm forgetting someone. There's been too many people lately. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and writing to me and all that. I'm going to come back tomorrow with all unique and original programming, just like always. So happy Day of the Dead. Feliz Dia de los Muertos for all of my Spanish-speaking friends. Por todo mi amigos En español. Países español, la la la. All right, that's it, guys. I gotta go. I gotta sign off. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that for real. So I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Thank you for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.